Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You want an unbiased opinion straight from the chest, not a bit accomplice or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge. They don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like. Wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because they agendas are disguised. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifted. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hello, everyone. It is Pam Esquire, also known as Your Law Intellect. Please make sure that you hit the like button on your way in. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. This is day 5 of the Megan Pete versus Milagro Grams. So I'll give you all a few minutes so that you can come on in. Speak to me as you come on into the live stream. And we're going to get started because it didn't take that long today. So, hey, Quan, good to see you. It's the Rocks. Good to see you. Brown Mama, good to see you. Hey, Aaliyah TV, how are you today? Thank you all so much for coming in and supporting. This won't be a long live because it wasn't a long morning, okay? So right now what is happening is they're on lunch till 12:30. And at 12:30, the attorneys will hash out any issues that they have, and they will also go over the jury instructions. So, what no need for me to stay there and be there. So there. The woman he chose, good to see you. Directors J, good to see you. Miss Sue Dominique, good to see you. Kimberly, good to see. Okay, I got everybody not, at work right now, or maybe they on a lunch break, or maybe you got me on your iPods, headphones, whatever it is. I appreciate the fact that you have tuned in. So I just need you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. As you all know, when we left off yesterday on day 4, Megan Pete was on the stand, and it was some cross-examination continued today. It did not finish because we were done at 11:15 because there was a juror that had to leave early, so they had a short day and used the rest of the day obviously to try to get some other business done that you have to do as an attorney, and I didn't stay for that portion. So Megan Pete will be back on the stand to resume cross-examination on Monday. Then Milagro probably will come back on the stand after that. What I will tell you today, so Megan P, or as known as Megan Thee Stallion, she came in. She had her gray suit on. She had her French roll with pins in the French roll, like writing pins in the French roll that she had in her hair. And the demeanor was a whole lot different. So yesterday, and this is one of the things that I was saying, that with Milagro, what I can say is she was consistent across the board. So when she was talking to, I mean, she started out talking to to Megan's attorneys anyway, because they called her, but she didn't come across, I guess, as combative. Like she just was talking and she was answering the questions, and she did that on with Megan Pete's attorney, and then she also did that, of course, with her attorney on cross. What I will say is yesterday it feels like, well, when Megan Pete came on there, she was very energetic and she was telling her story, got emotional. Today she was a little snippy. Mm-hmm. That's the best way, in my opinion. It feels like she was a little snippy on the stand. She was little irritated or something. So they start out the cross examination and they go back to the whole drinking issue, and they pull up the video and talking about her drinking. So then they put up a text message from August 31st, 2022. I'm sure we talked about that during Ferris's testimony, where she was basically saying that uh, so this was a part of the thread. So I don't think we may have talked about that specific text message, but she was talking about how she felt and what she was going through. She felt sad. She said she was crashing out, and she said apparently this was related to the issue with Carl Crawford and Jay Prince. Remember, she was on their label, she was trying to get out, and so she was saying she just don't know what to do, gives all these emotions about just feeling defeated. And of course, Ferris, which he always had done, he supports her, encourages her, and asks her, like, do you want to come down, do you want me to go down there? So the attorney asked her, what do you mean by you going down to Houston? Because that's what he asked, like, did you need me to go down to Houston? And she was like, no, because you got a family, you got kids or whatever, and I don't want you to go down there. And they asked her what she meant, because it didn't say specifically who she was talking about. And she said, well, I believe that they're talking about the Jay Prince and the record label issue with Carl Crawford and them. And so she was saying that she believed when she told him not to go down to Houston, the reasoning was because these people kind of rough, and I don't want you going down there getting into nothing. So just kind of leave it alone. But she was just sharing with him how she felt. She did say, like, they did, they were like, well, who were they and what did they do? And she was like, they did the bare minimal when she was on their label. And so they said, well, Carl Crawford, he posted things negative about you and Ferris, didn't he? And she said, yes. And so again, the defense is highlighting the fact that she's had issues that were all over the internet, that she was having issues with other people. So you're blaming everything on Miss Cooper, just Milagro. You're blaming everything on Miss Cooper, but you had these other instances. So that's the point of them pulling up all these different instances and then saying, well, around this time. So in this text, when you're describing this, you're not talking about Miss Cooper, are you? And it was like a text between them. She was like, she's feeling low. She feel like she's effing dying. And I guess in that one, she still was discussing the stuff with that she was going through with Crawford and Jay Prince. And so then when they get down to the text that says, and we went over that one, nobody gives me the grace, when she talks about being shot and how people make it seem like other people are the victim and nobody's giving me the grace. So then they ask, who you talking about? Because it was in this thread and perhaps they were trying to pull out. Maybe you really wasn't even talking about Milagro. But she responded and said she was talking about Milagro, all her fans, and everyone that agrees with her. So nobody's just giving her grace. They're not giving her the benefit of the doubt that she actually was telling the truth. They just want to believe what Tory Lanez has to say. And then in the same text, she says she's constantly looking for validation and kindness from people on the internet. And she said because she would read the headlines and in her mind, she thought the public would know this some BS. Like these people just trying to start stuff or do stuff. And she said she would read the comments and be like, these people really are feeding into this stuff and they really do. They're interpreting this. They're interpreting this in a way and they believe it. But she thought that, I guess, the reasonable, prudent person, as we say, would know that this is a bunch of BS and they can interpret the BS the way they do the headlines. I had on here, she got a little snippiness today. I had to write that down. She was like, what? Huh? So then when she says, in the text, it was another text where she says, well, in that text, she also mentions issues with families. So they asked her, well, who was the family that you had issues with? And she was like, well, I don't remember what was going on at that time, or not family or close friends, people in her personal life. That's what she said. She didn't say family. She said people in her personal life. They said, well, you mentioned people in your personal life, so who is that? Like, that's not Milagro. So who is that you saying in your personal life that has done things that makes you tired and upset and defeated? And she said, they said, you're not being attacked by Milagro. And she said, but they mentioned the Aiden Ross again, academics. Are all of those the people that's in this text? So that's not just Milagro, that's other people too. And of course, she responded and she was saying that Tori, that Milagro is the one that brags about her relationship with Tori and his father. So they said, well, isn't academic school with Tori too? Don't they say they're friends? She said yes. She said, isn't Aiden Ross saying he friends with Tori? She said yes. She said, and he said, and we can go down the list. Meek Mill is cool with Tori. Drake is cool with Tori. And she said, no, he said, don't Meek Mill and Drake say free Tory? And she said, well, I know they're friends. I don't know if they say free Tory or whatever, but that was kind of what they said. Like, they're one of the people that say free Tory. So again, setting the space, setting the tone that you ain't the only one, that Milagro ain't the only one. And there are several people that don't like you and several people that are famous, but you coming after Milagro. So then she says, this is where the smoke starts, the fire. She was like, are you saying it's okay that because other people's done it to me, done it to me before, that it's okay for your client to do it? She literally asked the attorney that question. The attorney responds, and they really were having a back and forth, almost like they was on the phone, like, hey, so are you saying A, B, C, D, and E? And it started kind of being a back and forth conversation. I'm like, hold on. First of all, he asked the questions. You don't ask the questions, but I mean, he was letting it happen. He was kind of going back and forth. And then it became almost a conversation where he was talking over her. So that's when the judge intervened and was like, counsel, you can't talk over a witness. And he was like, I never heard that before. And the judge was like, you have never heard that you're not supposed to talk over a witness? And so he was like, okay, judge, basically. But yeah, it got a little, she wanted to know, are you really trying to defend this thing and say, well, other people's done it, so that makes it okay for her to do it? And she really asked him that question. I was like, oh. So then they said, he basically was saying, like, you said Milagro's not famous. She has the least amount of influence. So why is she your target? And she was like, well, that's the point. She not famous. No, she's not. She was like real clear to make everybody, she ain't famous. She's not famous. She doesn't have influence. She didn't say she doesn't have influence. She said just because she's not famous doesn't mean she doesn't have influence, and was like, she basically has garnered fame off of her name. She's famous for talking about her. So then they go into, you were diagnosed with PTSD. And did you tell the doctor that you got shot? She said yes. She said, did you tell the doctor that about all these other people that was talking about you too when you was talking about it? She said, well, I told the doctor that I was, suffering from ridicule. Are the only screenshots you gave related to Milagro? Did you give them any other information related to all these other people that got something to say online? Did you give it to them? She said, no, the ones I gave had to do with, Milagro. She doesn't, I think, or she may have said she doesn't know. So on that, she was like, I don't know. So then, of course, he reminds her of the doctor, the psychologist that came on, who said that when she was reviewing everything, the only information that she got was about Milagro. So she didn't get no information about an academic. She didn't get no information about an Aiden Ross. She didn't get no information about any of them. So, yeah. So then they go on to they get to the situation of, he mentioned again, Milagro only got 40,000 followers, I think, on Instagram. So what is going on here? And she said, uh he said, did you know Milagro before this? Did you know her? Said, no, I don't, I didn't know her before this. So it's showing that, she wasn't known like that. In fact, from my understanding, even when the jury, like, it was some people that heard of Megan Pete, some people heard of Tori, but I don't think any of the jurors that they asked had even heard of Milagro. So they probably had no clue about YouTube and all of this stuff. But yeah, anyway, that's when she reiterated that just because you only got 40,000 followers on Instagram, that doesn't mean you don't reach many people, because you still could reach many people when you got 2,000 subscribers or 2,000 people, and you can still reach people. So then asked her, did Milagro going on DJ Academics to do the interview, did that bother you? She said yes. Said, why do you care about Milagro more than anybody else out here? Why you care about her? And that's, the same answer about what she had been doing and how it's consistent and all of that. And then they asked her, do you know what defamation is? She said, everything that Milagro is doing to me. That was her definition. She said, but if you're asking me if I know the technical definition, no, I don't know the technical definition of defamation. So then he goes into, so he talks about, he gets into trying to pull out trial information that can be compared to other information in order to prove that she did not, when she said that she perjured herself on the stand, meaning Milagro, because the defamation claim is that she alleged that Megan perjured herself when she was on the stand, which is a felony, which is a crime. So it's defamation per se. So then they mentioned Jaquan and the affidavit. And again, that was read yesterday. Jaquan said that there was a fight. Said there was a news posting, I guess, from some article. They pull up the blog, but it got taken down because it was only supposed to be used for limited purposes. It wasn't like entered in evidence. So they put it up, and for those purposes, they said that she got into the fight with Kelsey. And so they put up a photo of Kelsey. They said, did you see the photo of Kelsey and Kelsey's injuries? So they put the photo up of Kelsey, and they show Kelsey. I don't know if you guys have seen it around, but she had like scratches on her legs and stuff on this photo. And so they said, did you see it? She said no. So then they put it up for her to see it. She said she hadn't seen it before, that she recalls. So they asked, well, how did she get those injuries? They said when Tori was beating her up. That's probably how she got those injuries. So then they move on to, apparently in Meg's, well, I'm not going to say apparently because they put up the transcript, but at the trial, when Meg was testifying, she was describing her injuries, and she said she had nerve damage, and she said that she doesn't have feeling. And they said, what do you mean by nerve damage? And she said, I don't have feeling in my left foot. She said it's numb. She didn't have feeling in it. So then they put up the doctor's report who testified, which was interesting that they allowed it. I think the judge thought she sat for the whole trial. So she said it would like not present sense impression. What was the hearsay exception? Effect on the listener. But it's not really that, because she wasn't there. But I think maybe everybody thought she was there the whole time. But she did testify she was only there. She was only there for her testimony, and then she left. But anyway, they put up the doctor's testimony, and it was the doctor's assistant who testified, who said that they didn't find any nerve. It was another word they used. It wasn't like, it was some word before that, and I didn't catch it. And she kept kind of saying it over and over again, and she didn't know what that meant. They said on the left side. So they were trying to use that to show that she's testifying that she had nerve damage, but then the doctor said that it wasn't no nerve damage when he testified. So this is all at the, at the trial. So that went back and forth for a minute. Then they had technical difficulties. Well, they was having technical difficulties. We was only gonna be here for a couple of hours, and it didn't start till like 8:15, even though it was supposed to start at 8. And then when they were trying to play audio to either impeach her, because they were, she would get certain testimony, and they would go to her, try to go to her deposition and say, well, that's not what you said in the deposition, and the audio wasn't working. So they called tech. So they took 10 minutes, and then tech basically said, we gonna have to redo all this up in here. So we had to go to a whole nother courtroom across the hall. So we lost probably about 30, 40 minutes on a day that was going to be short anyway. So we ended up going across the hall. It was a little warmer though, because that courtroom is cold than a mug. They keep everything on ice in Miami because it is freezing everywhere I go. So then they asked her, did she feel like it was conflicting information between what she testified to and what the doctor said? And she said, no, like I said that I can't feel the left side of my foot. The doctor said, she said, first I said I had nerve damage. She said, then I said I couldn't feel the left side of my foot, but the doctor said they didn't see nerve damage specific just to the left foot, but they didn't say they didn't see it in the left or the right at all or whatever. So she was saying she didn't see it was conflicting, but that's what they was using. Because what they're trying to do, I guess, is pull up certain things that show that perhaps she may have not been totally honest on the stand, which would help them with their defamation portion, because truth is the defense. So that's what they're doing. So then they talk about Kelsey's injuries, and they put up her picture again with her bruises and scratches. Ask her, do you remember how she got the injuries? And she's like, she basically only knows what Kelsey told her. Kelsey is the one that told her that Tori beat her up. So then they put a picture of Tori up, and Tori don't have, basically look at his body. He has no scratches. He has no bruises, nothing. Of course, using that to try to show that he doesn't look like he was involved in the altercation. And asked, did she see any wounds? You see any wounds on here? You see any wounds on this picture? She was like, no, I don't see any visible wounds. And then they talk about drinking, right? And they say they put up where she was talking about when she was drinking, and she had stopped drinking because she knew it wasn't healthy for her. She can't give the exact time, I guess, when she stopped, when she, with the drinking, or when she calmed down with drinking. I don't think, no, she totally stopped. But she was mentioning how when her mom died in the documentary, she just started drinking and stuff. Like when her mom passed away, somebody said that yesterday. Like, I could see why she was drinking. She went through that like that fast. So she said that's what she was doing to cope, and she realized that it was unhealthy, and so she pulled away from that. And she said the public didn't really know the extent. Like when she was on social media, I guess she was partying or doing whatever or celebrating. Public didn't know the extent of, I guess, what she was drinking to mask some of the grief that she was going through with her mom. And so then she mentions deleted message. She said, do you know, they kept asking her, do you know for a fact that she was the mouthpiece for Tory, or that she was getting that Milagro was getting paid. She said, yeah, I believe she was the mouthpiece of Tory. She said, well, you saying as a matter of fact. She said, well, I would probably be able to connect it if y'all ain't delete these messages. And that's what she said. She's like, we didn't delete these messages, we would probably know the extent of all of this stuff. But because these doggone messages is deleted, we don't know the extent of everything. So then the attorney said, do you know if Sunstar, if your team decided to subpoena Sunstar phone? Said, I don't know what they did. I didn't have anything to do with that. She said, so maybe they could have gotten those deleted messages from him. Did they try to get his phone? No. Do you know what the messages say that was deleted? No. Are you saying as a fact that Miss Cooper is Tory's mouthpiece? She said, I believe so. She said, but I'm just a witness here. All right. That's what I believe. So then they asked her if she had any prescription medicines or any type of mental health prescriptions for her PTSD. And she said no, but it's by choice. They said, well, how do you function? She said she functions with the best, to the best of her ability. So then they had the text message that we talked about yesterday that I told you was a screenshot, and it had Dez on it, and she was saying that was one of her managers. And I said, I saw Rock Nation. Well, it was confirmed that was Desiree Perez in the text where she was saying that was, that is her current management team. But she was telling her that she wanted her to keep your file, Desiree. Like, keep your file of all of this stuff, because she said she wanted to file suit. And that was like September 14th of 2022. She was preparing that she was going to have to sue Milagro even then. And of course, Des responded, yeah, we have everything. And hold on. So then they started asking her about her deals. Do you believe that you lost deals because of Milagro? And she was like, yes, because of the mental state that she was in. So then they pull up emails from the Just Eats. And in the Just Eats, it was between somebody named Miss Batts and someone named Daniel is the person that worked for Rock Nation that does all of their deals, the one that testified. So they pulled up emails, and it was a lot of back and forth. So in part of the email, the lady, Miss Betts from Just Eats, was like, listen, I'm getting anxiety regarding the timeline that keeps getting pushed back. Like, everything keeps getting pushed back, with these timelines. And apparently this was something that was going to be, somebody mentioned Christina Aguilera. So yeah, it was like they kept mentioning Christina. So I think he was doing that deal for both Christina and Meg. So in the email, she was saying she was complaining about not communicating in timelines. So what they were trying to establish is that there were other reasons why this deal might have fell through. And then there was a point where I guess Meg was needing all of this stuff, or I don't know if it was just her or both of them, but there was a time where there was a necessity for certain things. And they said, well, we said we'll provide 150,000, but the demands was just so much. So they were talking about all the things, the stylist, bringing the stylist, doing this, having the wardrobe, doing this and doing that, and was like complaining about the demands that were there as well. So then it was a March 25th, 2023, where Dan, I think, emailed Miss Batts, and that's when Miss Batts ended up emailing and saying, I saw this thing about her stepping back and going offline. So of course they asked, was that around the time that Tory was being sentenced? She said she didn't know. Then there was another email June 5th of 2023 with Miss Betts to Daniel, and the email alleged that there was a conflict that they were saying it was a conflict in time, and they asked her, like, was there a conflict that could have affected the deal? And she kept saying, I'm not a part of this email. Why you didn't ask him when he was on the stand? I don't know anything about the context. I don't know what any of this stuff means. So again, they were putting out there that pretty much there may have been other reasons outside of your, Milagro or the mental health as to why she lost the deal. Then they get to the Call of Duty. Y'all hit the like button and subscribe, you guys. I see you coming in. They get to the Call of Duty deal. They said, well, when did you realize that this Call of Duty deal was going to involve shooting? And is that the reason why that you said you didn't want the deal? She said, yeah, when I realized it was going to involve shooting, I was like, I didn't want people to be able to shoot at me and think it's funny and put it online because they was already joking like that. So they said, so you didn't know anything about the fact that you were going to be a skin? And she said, well, I didn't know any of the specifics of the deal. So then they asked her, so you don't know? She said, I don't really know what skins are. So then they said, well, did you ever reach out to the people at Call of Duty? She was like, no. Baby, they put up that tweet. It was from August 23rd, 2021. And the tweet said, we need to get a hot girl skin ASAP. That happened. And then the Call of Duty tweet responded to it. And it was like Call of Duty real something-ish, I think is how they responded. And that was August 23rd, 2021. So then she said, well, I don't know. I don't believe, I may not have been the one that tweeted. I don't think she specifically said it wasn't her, but she did say it probably was somebody else on my team that put that out there. Cause they ain't start negotiating for 2 years, like 2023, but it was out there on her Twitter 2021 and they found it over there on Milagro's team. So they put that up there. But she said it was someone else that probably posted it on Twitter, not her. She said, I still don't really know what skins means. I was like, okay. So then they talk about the deposition of academics. So they were like, are you aware that, in the first deposition, we went over that where they were asking him questions about his source and he didn't want to give up his source. So they had to go to the courts and the courts was like, you got to give up your source. You don't have that journalistic privilege or whatnot. So he had that second deposition. So at the second deposition, they asked her, they said, well, do you think the academic is, in your opinion, the academic works in conjunction with Lane's? And she, she thinks that they work in conjunction. They said, well, do you know if your attorneys had access to his phone? Because if you saying these people was working with him, why you not getting access to their phones? So she said, I don't know what my attorneys did. So she said she didn't know that. She don't know if they tried to get his phone or not. And then they said, well, how do you know the academics and Tori and him, they all work in conjunction? She said, didn't Milagro say that her and academics had the same source? Because there was a tweet, I want to say related to the DNA, where Milagro was like, or maybe it might not have been a tweet, it might have been a video. It's so many that we see. One of those. There was a comment of that I knew about it because me and him had the same sources. Now, and she said they had the same sources. So wherever they are getting their information, she said, and I believe that source is Tory Lanez, especially with the DNA test, because that was under, that was under protective order. That was only the parties had it. And then they said, well, didn't you hear in academics deposition? Academics said they don't have the same sources. And in fact, academics said he don't believe Milagro got a source. That's what he said. That's what he said in his deposition. And she was like, nah, I don't remember that. But yeah, that was played yesterday where academics was like, we don't have the same source. And I don't even believe that, she got a source. He said, do you know that you're able to get messages? Are you able to get messages even to people that you didn't sue? And she was like, she didn't know. So then he started asking her different information that she got. Like, you got records from Unite the People. You got certain records from Milagro's phone. They went down some of the records she had that she's had. She said, in those records that you received, did you ever see that Milagro was being paid for being a mouthpiece? So she said that she didn't remember, but she would give like the inferences, I guess, because like on Unite the People, they were kind of on their emails, they were like sending some documents and all of that. So on that end, I guess she was saying like there's some info. She's like, oh yeah, and the Unite the People, this and this and that. So she would say certain inferences that may have came from stuff. So they said, well, what emails do you say that you believe that she is being paid for a mouthpiece, or that's where it's coming from? And she said, I don't know. Said which specific. She's kind of arguing with him about like what information are you talking about? And he's like, you tell me. It's hundreds of emails, hundreds of texts. You tell me which one specifically mentions Milagro getting paid to be his mouthpiece. And she's like, if you put the email in front of me, I'll be able to tell you what it is. She's like, no, I'm not talking. I want you to tell me what email or what text messages is what it says. So it was a little back and forth for a minute. And so then they get into the DNA tweet. The DNA tweet, they was arguing about, of course, where it had DNA, that DNA's, the DNA was not found on the gun, or Tori's DNA was excluded. And it was not found on the gun. And she was like, it was not found on the gun. He said, what does that mean? Like, when you were in, like, did you see the forensic testimony? She was like, no. Like, of course, she wasn't there. So she didn't hear it. So he couldn't really get into what they said with the forensic. She said, doesn't that mean, like, what is wrong? Was Tory Lane's DNA found on the gun? Like, what? Yes or no? Like, I don't think he said yes or no. He probably should have. But he was like, was the DNA found on the gun? And she was like, it was not found on the gun. Was Tori's DNA found on the gun? It's not found on. What does that mean? It couldn't be included and it couldn't be excluded. They couldn't exclude him from it. So he said, I'm just going to move on. So then he pulled up that tweet from the producer. So the producer, he had the Goofy Ninja. He was like, that's the Goofy Ninja one. The Goofy Ninja said that he hasn't shot her, but the bullets match up with the bullets from her feet match up with the bullets in her gun. And he said, he asked her, who is that? Your producer. Did you tell him to put that tweet up? No. He was probably putting it up because he was defending me. Well, is he your mouthpiece? She was like, no. Oh, okay. You didn't direct him to do it? No. Did you tell him to post it? No. So then she said, well, but that tweet isn't accurate, right? Because you didn't have any bullets. You had bullet fragments. So then apparently when she was reading the transcript from the doctor, she read the whole thing. Like when they would tell her to read lines, she would say, scroll, I want to read the whole thing. She said, I want to know the context. And she was doing that. And apparently they helped a little bit on this one. because the doctor was saying that basically they call all things bullet fragments regardless. That's what they call it, because sometimes you can't tell because of probably the deformity and stuff, unless I guess they know without a shadow of a doubt, because it's a whole bullet or it's not, the bullet hasn't, whatever bullets do, and it's intact. That's the only time they actually put bullets. So she was reading that and she said they call all bullets fragments. So no, he wasn't wrong. And this was before this doctor even before anybody testified that there was a difference between fragments and bullets. He posted that, so that was his interpretation of it. So they like, that was his opinion, right? Yeah, and she said that's he said do you think he's a liar? Even though it wasn't a whole bullet, it was just a bullet. Do you think he's a liar? He said, no, he's not a liar. That's just how he interprets it. And then she said, because he's not a doctor. Yeah, that's his opinion, right? Said, no, this doctor, and she kept reading it over and over again. He wasn't wrong, even though he said bullets, because this doctor said we call all these we call all of them fragments unless we see a whole fully intact, then we'll just say bullet. But other than that, fragment may actually be a full bullet. It's just because of the way it's deformed or whatever it is, they don't do it, they still call it a fragment. And she kept reading it over and over again. That's how I'm reading it. That's what they call all bullet fragments. That's how I'm reading it. And he was like, but that's an opinion, right? And he ain't your mouthpiece either. Like, okay, I'm picking up what y'all putting down here. So then they mentioned a gag order. Are you aware there was a gag order in this case? She said on me. They said on all the parties. Wasn't nobody supposed to talk about it. She said, I ain't know nothing about it, but I don't talk about her in no way. So whatever. So apparently there was a video of, I mean, they just said, did you talk to the press yesterday? And the judge was like, this is something to talk about outside the presence of the jury. But we all know, like, there was a video of which somebody asked her a question and she generally said something, I think had to do with bullying or something yesterday. So they was trying to bring that up, but the judge stopped that because that was nothing appropriate to talk about in front of the jury. So then they pull up the October 30th, 2020 protection order. And that protection order was from the criminal case, which says that Mr. Peterson can't contact you, be near her, use a third party to contact her. And it was like paragraph 13. And they said, well, why did you get a protective order? And she said she got it against Tory. And part of that too was her beliefs about the, I guess, collaboration with Milagro. The word collaboration is my words, and ain't no quote from them. I'm just explaining it summarily. They said, felt like Tory reached out to her to be a mouthpiece, so that was part of it. So then they showed that Sunstar Peterson's contact with Milagro, or Tory Lane's contact with Milagro, was September 17, 2020, which would have been a month before the protective order was entered. So the attorney was trying to say that doesn't correspond with your theory that she got the protective order. She believes that because she got the protective order, that's the reason why Milagro became her mouthpiece. Milagro became Tory's mouthpiece. Let me say that again so I can be clear for the record, because that sounds a mess. The theory of Megan Pete was that after this PPO was entered, this protective order was entered on October 30th, 2020, she believes that Tory was using Milagro as a mouthpiece. That was the reason he reached out to her. So he reached out to her because he needed someone to be his mouthpiece, because he could no longer talk anymore about Meg because they were under a protective order. So they showed a screenshot that Tory or his father, one or the other or both, reached out to her on September of 2020, September 17th, which would have been before the protective order. So they were trying to say that they didn't reach out to her specifically because they needed a mouthpiece because the protective order was in. They had reached out to her before the protective order was even there. So they had already reached out to her before there was a protective order that was in place. So that's what they were trying to elicit. So then they said, are you also aware that in criminal cases, they automatically, once the person is arrested, and he was arrested for shooting you, that they're going to automatically put in a protective order, that you don't have to do anything? And I believe she maintained that she was the reason why there was a protective order that was out there. And she didn't know if it was, she don't even remember when Tory was arrested. So she can't say they just automatically put it in. And it was a difference because in 2025 in January, of course, it was in the civil court because it wasn't connected to a criminal matter. So she did have to go. And so they were differentiating between the criminal, which probably or may have been put in by the government, as opposed to civil, which is you going down there and saying somebody's harassing you. But they really didn't get into the civil because he wasn't able to put it on the screen. So he kind of struck that question and said he'd get back to it. So he probably get back to it on Monday. So then they said, but there's no point in time that you tried to get a protective order from Ms. Cooper. Is that right? She said, no, that's right. No, I haven't. They said, you've never tried to block Ms. Cooper either on social media? She was like, I don't know. I could have tried to block her. I don't know. So then they pull up the deposition where she said in the deposition, they had the video where she said, she did not block. They asked her, did you block Miss Cooper? This is the deposition. Have you blocked Miss Cooper on social media? She said no. This is the deposition. She straight up said no. Like she didn't say, I don't know. She said no. And she said, because I want her to see me winning. Although she wishes all this bad stuff on me, I want her to be able to see with that, despite what she's trying to do, that I'm still doing well in life. So that's why she hasn't blocked her. And they were like, wouldn't she see you anyway? She said, what do you mean? Wouldn't she see you because you famous? She don't have to see you she don't have to see you on social media. You famous. She gonna see you anyway. So, and then the attorney said, then she said, well, hopefully, she said, I guess hopefully she don't see me in person, that we don't see each other in person. The attorney was like, maybe she'll go to your show or something. And everybody was laughing. She was like, I hope not. It's like, maybe she'll come to one of your shows. I was like, okay. They said, do you believe that Tory paid Kelsey at some point? What information do you have? She said, yes, she believes that Tory paid Kelsey. What information do you have that Tory paid Kelsey? She said, well, first of all, he offered us $1 million. Then she met with him and she told me about him offering the business deal. And then she gets on the stand after she done told the truth to the police. She gets on the stand and all of a sudden she got amnesia and she don't know anything. So yeah, I believe she got paid for her silence because she got on the stand and all of a sudden she don't remember nothing that happened. And she pled the fifth. So they said, well, that's an opinion, right? That's what you believe. And no one can stop you from your opinion. Is that right? But you really don't have any proof that she was paid. That's just your opinion. And you're entitled to your opinion. You see what they picking up? They trying to hammer in this defamation. You know, they like, this is the opinion. And then she said, well, if I was suing Kelsey, I probably could. I probably would get all the information, but I'm not suing Kelsey. So then they said, well, what did you see on Kelsey? Like, did you see the picture on Kelsey? They get back to the fight. Did you see the picture on Kelsey? Well, Kelsey has scratches and stuff, I guess, on her legs. So what did you say happened? You said Kelsey told you he pulled her hair, slapped her, and something else. I don't know if he punched her, but it was like, you know, that. She said, so how would you explain the scratches on the legs? And she was like, I don't know. Like, she's the one that told me that he beat her up and that he pulled her hair and all of that stuff. I don't know. She could have failed. I don't know. So they said, well, can you describe the blows and the hits? And I was like, listen, I'm telling you, this is what she let me know, that he did this to her. And then she said, oh, what are you getting at? So then she said, didn't you guys get in a fight? She said, oh, that's where you going with this. That's a lot that she was doing too. She would try to figure out where the attorney was going. And so she was like, oh, I get where you going. I pick up what you putting down. Let me tell you this. Let me make this very clear. This is what she said, and this was the ending of the day. She said, I am almost 6 feet tall. She said she is 4'11". She said, so when that witness, Sean Kelly, said, I saw 2 girls fighting, she said, what, Tori is 5'2". He probably thought he saw 2 women fighting, or he said he thought he saw 2 women fighting, because he probably thought it was me. But if he actually would have seen me, he would have known it couldn't have been me, because how tall I am and how much I'm over them. She said, there is no way. She said, so I understand, based on how Love Fella is, Tori and her, why they thought that it was 2 women fighting. She said basically, she too big to be fighting a Kelsey, all right? Because she way too big. She ain't fighting no Kelsey. And she wanted to be clear that she ain't. No, he might have thought he saw 2 women fighting because you had these little shorties. Little shorties. But she ain't seen me fight nobody. Or he ain't seen me fight nobody. Okay, we will break for the day. We'll be back Monday. Attorneys, please stay, because we're going to go over our jury instructions. And that's when I grab my notebook book and I left the building. So there's that. That's what happened today. And on Monday, we'll have more cross-examination. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, please. And thank you. Y'all said she lying. You said she ate. Y'all she did kind of like, she too smart for her own good. Oh, that makes sense. He clearly said the tall woman and the short woman were fighting. I don't know where you saw that at, but okay. Tori don't have no hair. You like her attitude. Don't try to. They was and I said it in the beginning. It was a little, she was a little rough. Like, she was getting a little frustrated. You can tell. It wasn't as relaxed, which happens a lot. You know, you'll see, if you guys watch trials on YouTube, you'll see police officers, they feel real comfortable with the prosecutors being with the defense. It's like pulling teeth. They don't really want to answer questions. And yeah, I think juries pick up on that as well when you have kind of a change in demeanor. I don't know what was going on with her. She wasn't even on the cross yesterday. To me, she was still kind of like upbeat and excited, like even when she was talking to him yesterday. But today it just seemed a bit more tense, like she had some tension or something. So there's that. I don't have any super chats. So I ain't got it. Well, thank you for the super chat, only me. So there's that. We did have a go. Y'all could try to hit the go for y'all get off of here with these super chats. You said she went home and read the comments. You think so? Child, I don't know what the jurors thinking. Child, it's all. You know what? This is the thing. We've been following this case for so long, and I said it before. I think we understand. But if I were a juror and I didn't know a Milagro, I didn't know a Megan P, I didn't know anything about Tori, I don't know nothing about this trial. I don't know how YouTube is. I don't know about Discord. I don't know about Station Head. I would want to be spoon fed so I can make sure I understand how all of this goes. You can see Milagro's strategy. Thank you so much for the super chat. Michelle McKellick, probably messing your name up. Thank you so much. But I can see where they're going. I mean, with defamation, truth is obviously a defense. Or if it's just her opinion, you can have it if it's an opinion. It's the problem when you make it as if it's a fact. So if they're eliciting that maybe she's making things facts of which she doesn't have any real evidence, then a jury be thinking, oh, well, maybe she's doing the same thing she's doing. Maybe that's where they're going with it. Or they may say this is true, and then at least for the defamation point, she will have something to have them really ponder over. And I think they're doing a good job, a decent job in doing that. But again, they have redirect after she get finished. So if there were things that needed to be cleared up, because what I noticed too is they're not really objecting much. They're letting him get with almost whatever he needs to say in, and it's not really no objections every other sentence unless it's just that bad. So they're just letting him talk. Like they like, okay, do your thing, bro. And I guess they'll try to do on redirect. Thank you, Call Me Darling, for the super chat. Do I think it was a fight? I have to relook at the transcript on how it was described, but I'm gonna say initially, the only reason why I even considered it was honestly because I never understood why they were not friends anymore. It just seemed the way Kelsey described it as if she didn't even know why. It was like, so what is it that you don't like about, like, what happened with Kelsey that you just disconnected yourself? But she explained that, and if that's the case, I think I might feel some kind of way. I probably would have felt some kind of way that she even answered the phone, like when he called from jail. I would have felt some kind of way. You beat me up and you shoot my friend and you calling me collect from jail. What are you calling me for? You better call one of these 1-800 numbers on here to get you your lawyer. So I did just think some of this stuff is just odd the way it was. And it could have been because there was a lot of alcohol involved. I don't really know. I don't have an answer for that. I never thought about the fight. I never felt like the fight was that important. So I never thought about it. But again, if they can really prove that it was a fight and she said that it wasn't a fight on the stand, then I don't think everything is speculation. The problem that I see though is that a lot of this stuff was presented to the jury and they pick what they want to believe is credible. They pick that. So thank you, Granny the Great, for the super chat. Thank you. Said nobody that gets shot asks the police if they're going to jail and that they have an image to protect. Who said that? I don't know. What up, though? Thank you, Sunshine Love, for the super chat. Look at y'all. Y'all said you ask, you shall receive. That surprise witness said, thank you for your coverage doing the exhausting work going to the courthouse to bring the info. Thank you for your super chat, the surprise witness. I appreciate you. Thank y'all. Y'all went and said, okay, you said what? We about to hit this super chat goal. We need 2 more, and then we hit our goal. Meg said it, and I would have did the same. She said it in a body cam. Okay. I don't have the body cam. I don't know. I'll take your word for it. I can't believe people think his conviction is a conspiracy. Me neither. I mean, I was at the trial, so I see where they got the guilty verdict from. Now you can say that. So this is the thing. This is the thing about jurors of your peers. You may have people, two, three people, like what happened with YSL. You may have one or two, whatever people at first, and they're able to convince you or how. Well, no, YSL isn't a good example because I think they immediately didn't think it was a RICO and stuff. But which case was that maybe they had a hung juror? Y&W Melly. It was one person. You may have had somebody on the jurors that looked at this information the way that some of you are looking at this information, and you may have had people that looked at the information where the most credible showed that he actually shot her. That is what a jury of your peers is, and they found him guilty. I can't say unless this is the first thing I said, and I was like before, we'll find some new evidence. The Jaquan thing is just a little fishy for me. I get it, y'all want to believe the Jaquan thing. For me, I can see some skepticism, like I said, because if there's a if Tori was my client, Jaquan didn't testify because he didn't. Who gives a damn? So what? You perhaps might get a 2-year gun charge or something, and this man going to prison for 10 years. Like, come on. Let's be serious. If you subpoena the court, I'm sorry, that's a dumb excuse. He ain't testified because he can't be around gun. So he could not have believed that he can just fill out an affidavit. Nobody challenged what he says, and that was going to be admitted. He couldn't have thought that, because that's not how the law works. We have the right to confrontation and cross-examination. That is a dumb reason. I'm just saying. Now, he would have got subpoenaed. Period. If that's what I knew he was going to say and I had that affidavit, I would have used that affidavit if he got on that stand and said something else. That's what I would have used that affidavit for. Didn't you do an affidavit on this day? Didn't this affidavit, if he said anything as the defense attorney contrary to that affidavit, that trial wouldn't have started until I found that boy. If I knew he was going to say that somebody else did it, he ain't see my client with a gun, it was a fight, all of this stuff that he said in this affidavit, baby, he would have been the first, he would have been the only one I needed. Well, no, I think Toy probably could have testified after that, but they say he didn't want to because of the lyric situation. I guess. Let me see. I know I missed something. Thank you so much, Tyra, for the super sticker. You said the anti-bot meds bots are alive. And, I'll be ready for the ready. I don't care. Who is the guy from Meg's team that said Tori came over and confessed? I don't know. I haven't heard that, Lucas. I haven't heard that one. My thing is, how do people think Kelsey was Tori girl when he calling her bruh, meanwhile calling Meg baby and saying he loves her? I mean, people see what they want to see. That's why Emil was like, some of these people, it's like they cult. Like, some people, they get into their convictions, they believe what they believe. I mean, they probably see it on a jumbo trying over at the stadium over here in Miami, and they still be like, nope, let me see if I squint my eyes. That don't look. People believe what they want to believe. When it comes to anything, I was there at the trial. I understand why they convicted him. Would I have done things differently? Yeah, as far as his defense. That's just, I'm out. I'm 20, hindsight is perfect vision. May he have gotten off? He may have. If he had a different defense, who knows? But I can definitely see why the jury convicted him. That's all I'm saying. Now, if he has new evidence, I'm not talking about an affidavit he already had, a former witness he already knew about. That's not considered new evidence when you say you have new evidence. New evidence would be if he literally found a ring cam or something that somebody was hiding, or some nosy person some paparazzi just happened to be around and they took a picture of it and they got video of this whole, fighting and stuff. Flawless and Jima said Meg and Kelsey were not fighting. Kelsey went directly to the hospital, and in the days following the shooting, there was no issue with her and Meg that came later. She mentioned something about she got a phone call. She was at the Airbnb. She got a phone call, and they told her basically to go back to Houston, but they paid for her for like a month or something because apparently she said that she picked up and moved so she can follow Meg and be her assistant. So that is what she testified to, and she made it seem like I don't know why, but Meg kind of testified like she know why, that she did A, B, C, D, and E, and she just didn't want her in her circle no more when she knew that guy had, that Tory shot her. I'm stuck on, if you see help, Meg shot me in the moment, or Meg shot me. Help, Tory shot Meg in the moment. I think that was a powerful. People can say, they can translate it how they want to, but that's excited utterance. That is in the moment of what's happening. And those are the things I think that the jury looked at and was like, Then he didn't really put on a defense. The only defense he put on was Sean Kelly, and Sean Kelly said the short one had a gun in his hand and was shooting up in the air. So I don't know. Yeah, it was a year. Okay. All right. Thank y'all for the correction. I stand corrected. It's been a minute. You said 10 years ain't long enough. Well, they did put up the X-ray again showing the fragments. Are y'all even gonna just admit that she got fragments in her feet? Huh? Hmm? Um, Let me get off of here because I'm gonna start blocking people in a minute because some of y'all just sound ridiculous. All right, I'm about to get off of here so I can eat lunch. It's 1 o'clock. Hope you guys enjoyed the live. That is what happened on today, and we'll see what happens on Monday. I can't guarantee that I am going. I got work to do in my real life, so I can't guarantee that I'm going to continue to watch Milagro take the stand again. But if it so happens to happen on Monday, then we'll be talking about that as well because it does look like she is going to take the stand. But if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, you guys, that's the least you can do for working my damn nerves this afternoon with some of your comments. Okay, that is what happened. I think Milagro's team did pretty okay on today. And like I said, I feel like Milagro was a good witness. And I feel like Meg is kind of a little tension and a little tooty. That's just my opinion. But we'll see what happens. So Millie is allowed to take the stand again. That's a good question. I love answering very good questions. She's allowed to take the stand again because she was called in Megan's case. So everyone has their own case in chief that they put on. So she was called in Megan's case as their first witness. So now when the plaintiffs rest, which I assume they will do after Meg finishes her testimony, hopefully on Monday, then the plaintiff can put on their own case. And if they want to call her in their own case, they have the right to do that. So when they did cross examination, it was very, very short. They pulled out some things on Milagro, but there's more things I think that she wants to talk about. I mean, you did have some of these videos. Maybe she wants to explain the whole Emil situation, the guy that she told about that she had her connection with Tory and they gave her money. I want to know how she feels about Tory and them just acting like a fool in this house on this getting on video. I wonder how she feel about that. That's what I want to know. But I'm sure she gonna talk to somebody when this is over on that. But yeah, I those is Caesar. Like I'm like, none of y'all just all you gotta do is say no, this is something. Well, Sunstar did kind of say he just was getting into the whole, the devil is a lie. He was just getting so it was just hard for me to concentrate because he just was rebuking people. But he kind of did say like, no, they just got close and she just saw things differently. And some people might see things differently. Every witness saw y'all fight. That is not true. But thank you for the super chat, but that's not true. Oh my God. Not a doctor is from Rock Nation too. Is that what we saying? Is that what we doing? Y'all, some of y'all gotta like for real just be like, how can I just get on here and irritate people? You guys gotta have like 10, 15 channels because I know you be getting blocked. I know they just be the block ministry probably strong on some of y'all channels, son. You got like 20 channels, different names, just change the numbers or something. Thank you. Shout out to Armand. That's dope. I'm here because Armand shouted you out for helping him understand a few law terms. Yeah, Armand talking about he going to law school. I said, honey, when you had your first trial, I'm there. Because that the theatrics of it all, he would put on a show for that jury. You said it's bagger. Oh Lord. Hey Linda. All right, let me go so we can eat. I'll talk to y'all later. You guys have a good day. Thank you guys again for all of the support. I appreciate y'all. Did I have a Thank you, Robin, for the Cash App. I appreciate you. Gotta go.